I'm Kate from the Small Things blog. Today's frequently asked questions video is going to be all about salon etiquette, communicating with your stylist, tipping, how to break up with your stylist, and kind of all those uncomfortable questions that you all wanted answers to. So if you're unfamiliar with my FAQ video series, I post on Facebook a call for questions about a week or so before. So if you ever want to ask a question, like the Small Things blog on Facebook, and then you can post a question when I call for them. But let's go ahead and get into the questions for this week. The overwhelming majority of questions that were asked are on tipping. How much to tip, who to tip, all sorts of questions about tipping. Let's look at the more traditional salon first. So usually a wide open space. You are with a stylist that works for the name of the salon. So when you pay them for a haircut, they're maybe only getting a portion of it, and a portion of it is going to the salon itself. So we'll talk about that first, and then I'll talk about being a booth renter and how to tip a booth renter. So typically, kind of across the board, a 20% tip is awesome. That's pretty much standard. I know some people would say 25% is pretty much standard. It's something that I think is going to just continue to increase. But a 20% tip is a fantastic starting point. Of course, if you're really dissatisfied, depending on your level of dissatisfaction, I'd say you could bump it down to 10%. But if you're really dissatisfied to the point where you either need a new cut or you have to talk to your stylist about kind of starting over, maybe talk about what, if anything, she would charge for a new haircut and then determine the tip from that. Or maybe don't tip at all. I know I might get in trouble for saying that, but a tip is really something that it shouldn't be expected, even though it kind of is, but it's a sign that, like, thank you. I really love what you did. Here's this extra for you for working hard on my hair. So a lot of you asked also whether or not to tip the owner, and there are a lot of different opinions on this. My thought is, in a more traditional salon setting, to go ahead and tip the owner, and if for some reason the owner doesn't accept tips, surely there's an assistant or a shampoo girl or something that would appreciate that. So I would say yes. Again, my opinion might not be what you agree with, but there's no harm in tipping, even though they're the owner and they can decide what to do with it. And then on that same note, yes, tip the assistant. So typically, if you're at a salon where there's an assistant either assisting the stylist during the haircut or color, or a shampoo girl, or both, so you've got a shampoo girl and an assistant and a stylist, that sounds like that would probably be at a pretty high-end ritzy salon. So your service is probably not going to be the cheapest, and you're kind of expected to tip every person that did a service for you, even if it's removing foils from your hair and shampooing. So tip everyone that does something for you, I would say. You can't go wrong with that. And then in a booth rental situation where you're dealing with essentially the salon owner, even if that salon is just you, like I'm the Kate Bryan salon, it's just me. I don't have an assistant, even though I probably need one. So my clients are only tipping me. So if your stylist works in a booth rental situation and she has an assistant, it's kind of expected to tip her as well if she does something for you. If she like sweeps the hair up after you leave, or right before you leave, you don't have to tip her for that. But if she deals with you on a personal level, doing something for you, more than getting you a glass of water, doing something as a service to you, it would be nice if you tipped her. Some other questions that were asked were how to deal with your stylist if you're unhappy with your color or cut, how to communicate that to them because it feels really uncomfortable. So I'll talk about that, and then we'll talk about how to tell her you're on a time frame, and then I'll touch a little bit on bouncing around from stylist to stylist within the same salon. So the first thing is the better consultation you have at the beginning of your appointment, the less likely you are to be dissatisfied with your haircut or color in the end. Because the idea would be that you're on the same page. I think it is so important to have a consultation every single appointment. I have a client, talked about her before, her name is Pat. She's been coming to me for 5 years. We have a consult. We've done the same thing every time. But I sit her down, I take her hair out of a clip or anything, I run my hands through it, say, what are we doing? Just in case she has a new idea, or if there's something that she didn't like that we did last time, or whatever, I need to talk to you about what we're doing today. So it's really important to have a consultation so you're on the same page. If you are unhappy while you're still sitting in the chair, you're looking at your haircut in the mirror and you think, something doesn't look right about this, it feels really heavy at the bottom, my bangs are way too long, they're way too short, whatever, talk to your stylist then and there, before you get out of the chair. Because most stylists, I would say, most stylists that are really passionate about doing hair want you to be happy with your hair. They want you to be able to style it the next day. They don't want you the next morning in the bathroom being like, what on earth did she do to me? I cannot style it. So it's really important to communicate that to them right there. And just as we are super picky with our hair as well, you're allowed to be really picky with your hair. It's your hair. And we only see you maybe once every 4 or 6 weeks. So we want you to be able to style it. So it's really important to have those conversations while you're still in the chair after you're seeing it freshly cut, blown out, styled. If it's something that you don't realize you're unhappy with until you get home, or maybe until you style it the next day or so, or you've parted it differently than the way she parted it and styled it, you need to call and let them know, like, immediately. So if you wait 3 weeks, we're gonna think, well, it's been 3 weeks and what's different now, and why didn't you call me right away? Like, did you just change your mind about it, or is there really a problem with it? Whereas if you call immediately after, you can say, you know what, I should have said something when I was in the chair, or I didn't realize that this would be an issue until I got home and styled it myself, but you know, my bangs are really not laying right, so can I come back in? And your stylist should say, yes, absolutely. Come back in here, try and get you in as soon as possible. It should be no charge, it's my opinion. You don't need to tip for that, because that's sort of correcting an error that they made, and they should be able to help you out with that. A few of you asked how to tell your stylist that you're on a time frame, or if you're double booked. So what that means is, if there's a client there getting a cut in color and her color is processing and your stylist kind of squeezes you in for a haircut during the processing time. So essentially that stylist is working on 2 clients at the same time, even though the first one doesn't need to be tended to immediately. That's what double booking is. So in that case, typically the appointments are all extended for both people. So sometimes your haircut can get cut short if you're the client in between the service, but the first client that has the service done is processing and then cut and styled. That can be a little bit longer of a service than usual. So the reason why stylists do this is because, plain and simple, time is money. And the more people that can get in, not to the point where they're squeezing it in and not doing a good job, but the more people they can get in, the better. And instead of killing, 35 or 45 minutes sitting around, if they could do a haircut in that time, why not? So that's sort of the essence of why people double book. Personally, I don't. I try as hard as I can not to, and I'll give up, an extra price of a haircut in 45 minutes so as to not make my client wait super long, but I'm able to do that. Some stylists that work in bigger salons that there are other rules for them aren't able to do that. But if you don't like that your stylist does that with you, 1, understand why. That it's not because she doesn't care about you, it's not that she wants to rush through you, it's just that she's trying to kind of maximize her time behind the chair. And 2, it's, again, to avoid time wasted. So if you want to tell her, like, listen, it takes a lot longer and I don't have time for that, the best way to do that is talk to her face to face about it and really explain that you understand why she does that, and you're not offended, it's not like you don't think she takes time for you or anything like that. It doesn't have to be this huge long conversation either, but just say, hey, I know you need to double book, I totally get that, I would do the same thing if I was a stylist as well, but it's really helpful for me to be like in and out in 2 hours instead of 2 hours and 45 minutes, so I would like to work with you on when can you get me in where I'm your only client. Is it the beginning of the day? Is it a Wednesday at 1 o'clock in the afternoon when that might be kind of a quiet time in the salon? But ask if there's a different appointment time you can come. So evenings are most likely to be double booked, and so are Saturdays, because everyone else comes at those times as well. So if you can swing a daytime like lunch, you might be able to avoid getting double booked. But also, I'd say you kind of need to respect that. That might be something that she has to do. Another option would be she may say, yeah, but I'll have to charge you more. So you'll have to decide whether or not you'll want to pay more for it to have more time with her, because essentially you're paying her for her time. So breaking up with your stylist, be honest with her or him. If you just haven't been happy with your haircut for the last couple times, tell her, listen, I don't know what's going on. Maybe I'm not communicating well, which might actually be the case, or maybe you're, seeing something different from my hair, but I'm just not getting what I'm looking for in my haircut or color, fill in the blank of whatever you're doing. So either tell her that in person, or if that's a little bit too scary, which I totally get, if you decide to go elsewhere, write her a note and tell her what's going on, because something happens where you will run into her later in life, like probably in the next couple weeks, because it just happens like that. And don't bow your head and try and hide in the aisles of Target if you see her. It's fine. We're in an artistic industry, so just like you pick out art for your home based on your personal preferences, you're gonna find a stylist that's gonna fit your personal preferences, and if that existing person isn't, of course you're gonna move on and find someone else. It's normal, it's your hair. Make decisions about it yourself and then find someone that cuts it or styles it or colors it the way you like. That's fine. You're entitled to do that. Don't stick with someone just because you feel like you need to. But be honest with them about it. Tell them thank you for all the time that they've put into it, because they have, whether you've been happy or not, there's been time spent on your hair. And a little card in the mail, either addressed to the salon, if for some reason you have her home address addressed to her, that will really mean a lot to her, and it'll make it a lot less awkward, because while you feel really weird for leaving, they feel kind of responsible for it. Oh, why is she dissatisfied? What did I do? Did I cut it wrong? Did I color it wrong? Was she not happy? Or were we just not clicking well? I've had a few clients that our personalities just don't click well, and I'm in a really private setting, so it can be uncomfortable, but that's just life. So be kind and write a note and let them know why. Even a simple thanks for your time, I've had to move a different direction, period. That's enough. If you're brave enough to see another stylist within the same salon of the stylist that you're breaking up with, I still think it would probably be a good idea to let that stylist know. And maybe you could even blame it on a scheduling error, or that's probably the best thing to do. Just say I could get in with her on a Tuesday when you were off or something. Even if that's a little bit of a lie. I don't know, I kind of think that's the right thing to do. But to also not pretend like you don't know her anymore. So if you're in the salon and then your old stylist walks past, be like, hey, you don't have to go out of your way to have a full-on conversation about everything, but don't pretend like they don't exist anymore. And understand that it's going to be really uncomfortable for the stylist as well, at least in the beginning. My hope would be that everyone in this situation, it's not some catty drama issue, that it would just be hey, she wanted to go a new direction. That's fine. You're not, every stylist has their own personal taste of what they like hair to look like, and it might not be yours, like I mentioned before. So hopefully that stylist would understand, hey, we're not on the same page. It's not personal. She just wanted to go a different direction. Oh well. So I say all this, again, looking through the lens of having been a stylist for 10 years, worked independently for the majority of it. I did work while it was a booth rental salon, it was a more open setup, so it looked more like a traditional commission salon. And you learn a lot of things from the stylists around you, good and bad, but everyone has their own kind of personal preferences of how they deal with their clients, how they communicate with them, if they like to chat during the service or if they like to be quiet. So everyone's going to have probably a little bit of a different opinion on all these questions. So I hope some of these answers help you guys as you're figuring out your stylists and how to work well with them. I'm planning on doing a separate video of how to have a really effective appointment. So from the minute you walk in the door to the minute you leave. So that'll be a whole different issue. If you want to ask any questions during my frequently asked question video series, be sure to like the Small Things blog on Facebook and then take note of when I call for questions. I try to do these videos about once a month. Thanks for watching.